Here's the reason why Antonio Brown is not going to be a San Francisco 49er. It has nothing to do with his play. It has everything to do with the fact that he has an issue going down in Miami, Florida with a young woman with an umbrella, and the fact that he might have beaten up a young woman. The San Francisco 49ers just dealt with Reuben Foster. John Lynch had to deal with that headache all offseason long. So he is not going to take the risk of signing a diva wide receiver at this stage in his career that talks a lot on social media and has a domestic violence dispute hanging over his head. When you look at the teams that are going to sign Antonio Brown, are they in position to win a championship? Are they going for a championship? Are they like the LA Rams where their window is now? If you're a young team, maybe your owner's a little crazy, maybe they'll do it. You could see the Redskins making a decision for Brown. They had no problem signing Josh Norman. You could see the Miami Dolphins making a decision. You could see a Seattle Seahawks, a team that oftentimes will take chances on players. You could see them possibly lining up for Brown services. You might see the Oakland Raiders and the Davis family taking a chance on Antonio Brown. I doubt that you'd see a conservative team like the Indianapolis Colts take a chance on Antonio Brown. The Baltimore Ravens are not going to take the chance on Brown. I'd be very surprised if the Cleveland Browns took another chance on Antonio Brown, considering they just signed Kareem Hunt. That's putting way too many variables in it's putting way too many ingredients in the blender, and it's putting way too many variables on the table and hoping that they're all going to blend together. You have way too many characters on that team. So for Antonio Brown, will he go to Denver and reunite with Emmanuel Sanders, even though Emmanuel Sanders and him had a falling out over Twitter.com? Will he go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Mike Evans? Will Chicago entertain pairing him with Miller, with Allen Robinson? Will he get along with Trubisky? I could see the New Orleans Saints packaging a deal. The Saints are always buyers, and their time to win a championship is now. Hence why they looked at signing Dez Bryant. Will the Cowboys, even though they had Ezekiel Elliott and his domestic violence disputes, will they look to sign Antonio Brown? I doubt it, but it is possible. Look at the teams in the NFC that are ready to win a championship. It is the Cowboys, who I have winning the NFC East at 13-3 and winning the number 1 seed in the conference. They have the best defense. They retain every coach on their staff. Their coach is under a hot seat in a prove-it year. Jason Garrett is a living, I'm not going to say he's a legend, but Jason Garrett is tough, and Jason Garrett will get this program headed correctly. Chris Richard is an absolute beast. Jalen Smith is a stud linebacker. Byron Jones is the most versatile football player on the face of God's green earth. The Dallas Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott, Prescott, Amari Cooper. There is no Cole Beasley anymore. You need a speedster. He can go to Dallas. The Chicago Bears were entertaining signing Kareem Hunt. The Chicago Bears have the best defense in football. They have Chuck Pagano as their defensive coordinator now. They have a cheap Mitchell Trubisky. They have cap space. They have the ability to bring in Antonio Brown and give up a first-round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers in order to get one of the best receivers in all of football. They have a coach and a general manager that is willing to sacrifice their needs to possibly take on a hell of a receiver. They have no domestic violence in that facility and with that team. That team is clean. That team has leadership on both sides. You have Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks are the leaders. Eddie Jackson is a big-time leader. Amukamara has been around the block before. Roquan Smith, Leonard Floyd, a team of alphas on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side of the ball, you have Jordan Howard, who's played a lot in this league. You have James Daniels, Bobby Massey. You have Kyle Long. You have veterans on that side of the football in Chicago. And you have a head coach that can make it happen. And you have a very progressive general manager that is seeking and searching. The LA Rams are a possibility. Right now, the Rams are pretty much, they are reeling from that Super Bowl loss. Les Snead took on Ndamukong Suh, who has a terrible reputation in terms of football, in terms of stepping on people's heads, doing things after penalties. But Ndamukong Suh is a very intelligent guy from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and contrary to popular belief, Ndamukong Suh is actually an incredible person, very sharp person, and actually was a great representative of the LA Rams. Talib fit in. Marcus Peters was able to function and play well. Is Antonio Brown going to be headed towards LA? I told you it wouldn't be the 49ers. The team that I think Antonio Brown is going to be going to is either the Chicago Bears or the Dallas Cowboys. Also, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs can give Pittsburgh Sammy Watkins $16 million contract, which is a lot of money. They can get him off of the books and send him to Pittsburgh. Therefore, Pittsburgh is getting a wide receiver one in Sammy Watkins, who's a much quieter person than Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown gets to go with Tyreek Hill and gets to go to Kansas City. Will Denver sign Antonio Brown with Case Keenum, with Drew Lock, with Kyler Murray? Will Antonio Brown play with his first cousin in Marquise Hollywood Brown, wherever Hollywood Brown ends up going? Will Kyler Murray, a friend of Antonio Brown, be quarterbacking the team in which Antonio Brown is playing for? All of these are interesting points. I will say this about Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown does not play for my Giants. Everybody who watches this program knows how hard I am on Odell Beckham Jr. They know that I don't like Odell Beckham Jr. in terms of his social media usage, in terms of the boat trip, in terms of him being focused and being a team-first guy. Antonio Brown, by throwing a ball at his teammate's head, Antonio Brown, by getting pissed at Big Ben Roethlisberger and getting pissed at Mike Tomlin, he was thinking about himself over the needs of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Antonio Brown, however, made a great point. He was an undrafted guy from Western Michigan, and now he is the best receiver in the NFL. He is one of the most popular and powerful players in the NFL. And even though Antonio Brown has talked a lot of smack, especially in the last few years, he has backed it up with Hall of Fame numbers. He has backed it up on the field in ways in which very few guys have done. And from afar, we can appreciate that. Odell Beckham hasn't had the consistency and the durability of Antonio Brown. I don't think they're in the same league. I don't think that you could compare Odell to Antonio and say he's better. Antonio Brown just accomplishes a lot more. Now, a lot of people say that Ben is better than Eli, and that is absolutely 100% correct, especially in the past 3 years. But Antonio Brown is faster, better route runner, clutch, always comes up with big plays. He is the best deep threat in the NFL. I think he's a top 5 deep threat to ever play NFL football. That's how good Antonio Brown has been for the Steelers. The connection has been great with Big Ben and Brown. But with this domestic dispute, that is the biggest hurdle for NFL teams. If I was ready to win, if I was Chicago, I would give it a go for a first-round pick. Especially if you're a mid-first-round pick, you send a first-round pick. If you're ready to go for it, you send a second-round pick. If you're not ready to go for it and you're rebuilding, you're Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, you're in Arizona, you're Cliff Kingsbury, you're just getting started with a team, you're like Titans or maybe the Packers, you're middling around in mediocrity, don't take a chance. But if you're on the tail end of your window, if you're Eagles, if you're the Seattle Seahawks, and you're on the verge of falling off, if you're going like this, if this is your chart, if this is your pie chart, you're up here and now you're teetering down, then that's a mistake. Or it's not a mistake, then you grab an Antonio Brown while you have the opportunity. If you're the Rams and you're trending a little bit down. But if your window is now, you hit the Antonio Brown, you hit that sweepstakes. Especially if you have no domestic violence disputes under your head like the 49ers, like the Ravens do. If you're a team that's rebuilding, you absolutely stay away. It could damage everything. It could be hostile, and it won't be a good representation. If you have a good leadership established, a good locker room, and you're ready to go for it, you take a flyer. You take a chance. And if it's a high first-round pick, you don't give away a lot of assets. It's a risk bringing in Antonio Brown at this stage of his career. He might not play as well. He might be all about himself. He will bridge a gap. He could hurt your team very well. But if you're ready to win a championship, you might take that risk, and it might end up being a good endeavor for the near future.